Good evening. Welcome to you all tonight. My name is Regina Dilley, and I am currently the chair of the Richland 2 Teacher Forum. Our moderator tonight is Charmaine Clowney. She is a university executive and an attorney who recently retired to care for her 90-year-old educator mother. She is a member of the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan group. Just for your information, none of the representatives working with us tonight live in Richland School District 2. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Clowney tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, and welcome to the Candidates Forum for Richland District 2 Board candidates. Again, my name is Charmaine Clowney. Oh yes, he is my nephew. I don't have his money. JD. With the League of Women Voters of the Columbia area, and I will be the moderator for this forum. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our esteemed president who handed this to me, Janelle Rivers. Also, Cynthia Flynn, whom I've been working closely with. Where's Cynthia? Janie White and Robin White, husband and wife, they're out front. And of course, Laura Covington, who will be the timekeeper. She's really important tonight. Well, at any rate, the Richland School District 2 Teachers Forum and the League of Women Voters of the Columbia area are co-sponsoring this forum. Both of these organizations are nonpartisan and interested in helping to educate the voters about the candidates as they prepare to vote on Tuesday, November 6th. The League brought some voter information materials along with us tonight. They're located on the table outside. We have also found that vote411.org, the website, to be particularly helpful. Take a card and share the address with friends. It is very user-friendly, a friendly way to learn about the candidates and to see a copy of your ballot before you arrive at the polls. Let us begin this forum with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we begin, some ground rules. I'm going to move back around. I just wanted you all to get to know me, who I am tonight. The moderator will ask all of the questions. The questions asked by the panelists were chosen from a list of questions developed by the Teachers Forum and the League of Women Voters. The audience may submit questions for the moderator to ask. If you would like to submit a question, please get an index card from Janie and Robin White, Cynthia is around, and write your question and get it back to her. According to the South Carolina School Boards Association, school boards have 4 roles: creating a shared vision, applying the vision, measuring and communicating the vision, and championing the vision. School board members are not in charge of the specific development or implementation of school programs. Therefore, our questions tonight are designed to ask about board policies and visions and not about specific programs. Let me introduce the candidates and then briefly review the rules of this forum. Tonight, the candidates are running for 4 seats. All candidates were invited to the forum. Might I please introduce to you in alphabetical order, Ms. Cheryl Caution Parker, an incumbent, and if I mispronounce your names, this is the first time I've seen them. Teresa Holmes, next to her. James Manning, an incumbent. Amelia Mackey, is it Mackey? Thank you, incumbent. James Mobley, Craig Plank, who's an incumbent, and Darrell President, Senior. And there are several candidates who are not here tonight. Okay, here are the rules. The candidates are seated at the table in alphabetical order. In the interest of fairness, we will ask each candidate for an opportunity. We're going to give each candidate an opportunity to go first. This means that Cheryl, Caution, Parker, Alpha will go first, then they'll come back, and then we'll ask Teresa Holmes, and so on and so forth. Each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement, and our timekeeper will be keeping time. We're also, after the opening statements, we will begin questions. Each candidate will be allowed to respond to every question. A 90-second time limit on each answer will be strictly enforced. We don't want to be here all night. We have a timekeeper, Laura Covington from the League, to help the candidates keep track of time. She will give a 30-second warning, a 15-second warning, and then will hold up a card that says when the 90 seconds is up. In order to get in more questions, we may switch to a 30 or 60-second response time towards the end of the forum. And we're also going to include some of your questions randomly in between questions. So with that in mind, Robin, Janie and Robin White, you all are going to be handling the audience questions, and most of you in the audience will become more informed voters for being here. Okay, let us get started. Ms. Parker, Caution Parker, your opening statement, please.
I'm Cheryl Caution Parker, and I'm seeking re-election to the school board. 34 years here in Richland 2, retired in 2014 as deputy superintendent. Supervised all the principals, all the schools here in District 2, policies and procedures, and the Leadership Training Academy that I started here years ago that is still ongoing. My experience and understanding, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't go over, my experience, knowledge, and understanding of Richland School District 2 prepared me well to serve on the school board. And on a personal note, both of my children attended schools here in Richland 2, Condor, Dent, and Richland Northeast. Richland 2 has been very good to my family. I'm very proud to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Holmes, Teresa Jones Holmes.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Teresa Jones Holmes, and I am I'm going to tell you briefly because we only have 1 minute. I plan to help increase teacher pay, work with teacher retention, address special education needs, initiate cultural competency, school safety, and address career and technology programs that need to be initiated within the district. Now, having said that, because we only have 1 minute, I've been an educator now for 33 years. I have I'm a product of Spring Valley High School. My children are a product of the district. I've been a teacher, a guidance director, a coach, a prom pageant coordinator. I have done basically everything in the school district that you can do, an adjunct professor. And also, so I'm going to say this tonight because, and you're going to hear me say this a lot tonight, I am not a politician, so I might make a lot of mistakes, but I am truly an experienced educator. I am a 33-year educator. So I like to say all the time, I'm new to politics, but I'm not new to education. I am not new to this, I'm true to this. I'm Dr. Teresa Jones Holmes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, James Manning.
Thank you very much. James Manning. First and foremost, I'm a parent. When I first ran for the board 8 years ago, I ran as a parent's voice. I was the only parent that served on the school board at the time of my election. We now have other parents, but I'm still proud to be a parent of a Richland 2 student. She's at middle school, an 8th grader. I'm very proud of her. Also, I am a former educator myself. I've taught in the schools in Richland 1, where I was an educator, where I met my wonderful wife, Ms. Donna Manning, who is also continues in education and works for the State Department of Education and very involved. Mother that was an educator, lots of educators in my family is very important to me. The cornerstone of our democracy is a free and public education, which is extremely important for our communities and the success and safety of our country. I'm proud to have been a member of this premier Richland 2 board that I serve with now. I feel like in my 8 years we are at the most productive and effective time in my tenure on the board, and I look forward to an opportunity to continue to serve. Thank you very much.
Ms. Amelia Mackey.
Hi.
Thank you.
My name is Amelia Mackey, and to tell you a little bit about me personally as a person, and then we'll talk later about what we stand for. I'm the chair of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees now. My husband and I have lived in Richland 2 for 23 years and are the proud graduates of 2 graduates of Richland 2 from Ridgeview High School. 4 years ago when I ran for a seat on the board, I was looking for more. I was already an engaged, diehard parent of our school students and the educational process. My mom has taught school for 51 years so far, so I caught the bug and the love of learning. I was serving on school improvement councils at the state and local level and enjoyed every opportunity that I could to volunteer at the local and district levels, and I absolutely loved the advocacy. Eventually coming to school board meetings and addressing the school board, writing letters, sending emails, I realized that I wanted a seat at the table to be able to have a bird's eye seat in the spotlight of equity and parity. 4 years later, I'm able to say that I've done just that. I enjoy advocating for the students of Richland too, and I have a penchant for equity and parity. I've done what I intended to do so far, and there's so much more within me to give. Thank you for coming here this evening.
I'm going to drop the microphone. Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Mobley. Mr. Mobley.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Teachers Forum, and the District 2 teachers hosting this informative discussion. Those of you who don't know me, I am James A. Mobley, and I'm excited to be running for Richland 2 School Board. I worked in a service-oriented industry for many years. I'm able to interact with people from various walks of life. I have been a resident of District 2 for over 30 years. I was employed with District 2 for over 15 years and have had 2 sons and 3 grandchildren graduate from the district. I have been a homeowners association president and volunteer for many community programs. I was a member of the South Carolina State Board of Cosmetology. I strongly support the education of anti-bullying for all, differently abled, special needs, ethnicities, gender, LGBTQ, race, and religion to ensure a safe learning environment. I am a dedicated, compassionate, detail-oriented leader. Together we can tackle the quality of education, equity, and fiscal challenges while representing diverse interests. I will be honored by your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Plank.
Thank you so much. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I just realized that 4 years have gone by quickly, and 4 years ago I didn't have to wear these, and I didn't have all this silver. So my name is Craig Plank, and for the last 4 years I have served as your representative on the Richland 2 School Board, serving the last academic year as the board chairman. I'm married to my bride, Dondi Mercer Plank. We have 3 children, Chandler, Chase, and Camille. I was raised in a household with a father who was career military and a mother a career educator. I've worked for the same company, State Farm Insurance, for the past 25 years. The last 20 of those 25 years, I've owned my own State Farm agency right here in the district. In addition to running my agency, I also coach training and leadership to other agents across the country. I've served as an SIC chairperson in the district as well as a PTO treasurer. My bottom line is this: we must continue to relentlessly pursue and provide excellent education to all our students in the district by focusing on school safety as well as on the acquisition, the retention, the development of great teachers and well-qualified administrators and district employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darrell President.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First, let me say that my name is Darrell President, and yes, President is my last name. I have had a great high honor of being a resident of Richland County from 1993 until now, and the distinct pleasure of raising and educating 2 beautiful children in the district that also graduated from Richland 2 School District. My son, Darrell President, whom some of you saw outside, and my daughter, Jasmine President. I'm a local minister. I've served at the congregation as senior pastor of the St. Matthew's First Baptist Church in Winsboro, South Carolina for the past 17 years. I'm also a local small business owner. I own Commercial Cleaning Services, LLC, which has our home office in Richland 2 School District. I'm a progressive thinker who is fiscally conservative. I graduated from the HBCU, one of the greatest in the world, Benedict College, and where I am graduated with high honors. I'm pursuing my master's degree at Samuel D. Wick Parker School of Theology in Richmond, Virginia. I currently serve as an executive board member of the Progressive National Baptist Convention and also the South Carolina State Education and Missionary Baptist Association here in the beautiful state of South Carolina. I have also served as a board member for the Richland County Public Library,
Okay, we're out of time.
Wow.
Yeah, we're strictly enforcing it.
Sorry.
But thank you so much. As you know, the league is very, very, very nonpartisan. We don't support any candidates, but if there are any elected officials in the audience, we have Mia McLeod, who's a senator. I saw Monica Elkins. Whatever, independent, whatever. I just wanted to recognize our esteemed elected officials. Thank you. And yeah, Mr. James Shedd. I'm new to the area, so if I okay, thank you. I just want to recognize you and thank you for your service. Okay, all right. The Teachers Forum of Richland 2 solicited questions from teachers at all schools in the district. These questions are a compilation of all of the questions they received. Okay, we're going to start in alpha, as I mentioned earlier, with the first question, and it will be directed first with Ms. Caution Parker. Listen carefully. This question is about safety. Research reveals that student mental health and student safety and security issues are interlinked. What are your plans and recommendations to enhance the physical and mental safety and security of our schools? For example, safer ways to communicate with administration and staff, providing greater safety and security for school buildings and classrooms, and zero-tolerance procedures regarding bullying, assault, and battery and fighting. Another part of this question, what are your plans or recommendations to enhance or increase mental health support? For example, psychologists and social workers in this district. And then thirdly, if the bond referendum does not pass, what are your recommendations or proposals for the district to enhance the safety and security of our schools? Ms. Parker.
Okay, thank you. First of all, for the bond referendum.
We can't hear you.
How do we turn this on?
It's somebody more technical than I. Is it on? Just speak into it. Yeah.
Just not loud enough. I can't believe that. First of all, regarding the bond referendum, as you know, at the beginning of the bond referendum, the most money will be spent on school safety. That is critical. That is critical. I used to be the principal over at Forest Lake Elementary. It was built in 1957. We had issues there, and we have issues now. And you know, across the nation, that seems to be a growing problem everywhere. And for me, and this is my personal opinion, it's almost a point of not if something's going to happen, it's when something's going to happen. We have issues now in our schools that we deal with in executive session as board members, that we have to address things that you all don't probably know a whole lot about. But there are a lot of very serious issues that come across our table there in the in executive session. I think that if we do not get the bond referendum, it's almost like putting a Band-Aid on things. You do one school at a time. A lot of our cameras, and including our school buses, a lot of safety issues are happening there. There's a lot of infractions. And what we have to do is make sure that we keep our children safe. No child can go to school and learn unless they feel comfortable and safe. And the same thing as a parent. I grew up in the military, and there was never an issue growing up, and that was a long time ago. But now things are different, and our children are growing up in a time of a lot of turmoil, a lot of danger, and I think we need to do everything we can to ensure our kids receive a quality education by being safe and secure.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Holmes.
The first thing that I heard was about the safety of the school. I currently work as a school administrator now, so I know the issues that there are with school safety. One thing that we can do to address school safety is we have to have more parent involvement within the school also when it comes to school safety, because we as educators always have to be the ones to bridge the gap, but parents need to become more involved with that also. Additionally, with the mental health aspect of it, there's a lot of bullying going on in schools today, and a lot of, for example, I just saw a fight today that was really unnecessary, and the problem that we're having is these kids do not have the kind of guidance that they need. I'm also a school counselor, so I know that we need to increase school counseling issues, but here's the thing. A regular school counselor is not designed to do mental health counseling. So we need to have mental health counselors within the school districts that work with those kids, and not just bring them in on occasions. You can house them, and you can get grants and things like that to house them into the building. So I think if you work with the issues that the kids are having emotionally and mentally, that automatically cuts down on the behavior that's going on, and that will increase the safety. So far as infrastructure for safety, we definitely need to implement metal detectors and things like that. Also, resource officers in the school. Also, we need to ask for volunteers in the school. There's a lot of things, and 1 minute is so short, it's hard to really put this all into it. It was a long question. But at the end of the day,
Teachers.
yeah, at the end of the day, school safety is, and mental health is an important issue.
Thank you. Mr. Manning.
Thank you. I'm glad she said a minute was short. Several things. One, I was certainly behind pay increases for our psychologists to make sure that we can both recruit and retain quality psychologists. And am I not speaking loud enough? Psychologists in our classrooms. We worked hard this year. The district has done a lot of initiatives with our principals and teachers to increase programmatic work around bullying, making sure that our staff understands what they need to do and how we can be more effective with bullies in our schools, and to make sure that our policies are where they need to be. We've done a lot of safety audits in our schools, so we've worked to make sure that our doors are locked, that we are following school protocols. We did a joint training session with the Sheriff's Department, with EMS, and our first responders this year, which was a very effective program. But when it comes to our bond, over 60% of that bond, $288.1 million of the bond, is towards safety and security. That's critical for our students and staff. We need to make sure that not just our students, but also our staff can come to work and be safe so that they can be effective with our students every day. We also, one of the things that I'm proud of is that we also have a lot of community partnerships. We have meetings with our ministers, with our ministerial alliance, so that we have partnerships and programs with those outside the school that can help us. We talked about parents. It is a community effort, and we must continue to focus on the mental health of our students, including things like behavior specialists, which we do have in our schools, and restorative justice, so that we can help our students to be more effective students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
I think I got your question, but could you repeat the question if you don't mind?
It's a long question. Educators were the ones that helped us.
It's okay. It's okay. I want to be sure that I'm clear,
and then
but I'm answering what
your time won't. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Research reveals. I'm going to do the fast versions. That student mental health and student safety security are interlinked. What are your plans and recommendations to enhance the physical and mental safety security of our schools? For example, safer ways to communicate with administration and staff, providing greater safety and security for school buildings, classrooms, and zero-tolerance procedures for bullying, assault and battery, and fighting. What are your plans or recommendations to enhance or increase mental health support, such as psychologists, social workers in the district? And if the bond referendum does not pass, what are your recommendations or proposals for the district to enhance the safety and security of our schools?
Thank you. I appreciate that. For starters, I'll start with the bond referendum first. All of us supported, all of the board members, except for one, and after that, 7 of us have agreed vocally and publicly devoted to support the bond referendum. So we've got measures in place if it passes with regard to safety and security. If it doesn't, we will never minimize the effects or the priority of safety and security. They're two different things. Safety can have to do with a leaky roof leading to mold and children breathing and things of that nature. Security has to do with physically keeping our children safe. There are plans and pledges to make sure we have different additional measures that are physical barriers to keep people from reaching our students. And we make difficult decisions all the time with regard to our students and keeping our babies, I say our babies, safe. Whether it's keeping them safe from harm from each other, from internal people, from people who are outside the building. So those are tough questions we have, but there's always a spotlight and a priority on that. With regard to mental health, we do have budget allocations and resources that are in place for social services. Thank you for social services. And those won't go anywhere. With or without a bond, the priority of mental health is important. One of the things that I'm thankful that we do is remove the stigma of mental health. Mental health is as important as physical health, as emotional health, and I'm thankful that we keep a priority of that and we have services allocated for our students, our teachers, faculty, and staff for mental health, and making sure that that goes a long way toward making sure that it ensures the whole health of a child. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to adjust, pause just a bit to adjust the microphones. Okay?
Oh, I had the wrong
All right.
microphone.
Just
Sorry.
one. Okay.
It's kind of like silverware at the table. Make sure I reach
Yeah.
the side.
All right, we're done. Mr. Mobley, same question.
Okay, I am against the part of the bond referendum to add the stadiums. In order to improve the security, I would not be opposed to installing metal detectors in the schools and having SROs in the school. But one of the most dangerous safety hazards in the district is parents lined up every day to pick up their kids. It happens in every school in the district. You have buses loaded with kids, parents lined up in cars to pick up their kids. That should have stopped a long time ago. You're going to stop it when are you going to stop it? You're going to stop it when somebody with AR-15 shoot up the buses and the parents. Security guards can't protect you from that kind of action. You had security guards in Florida that just left the scene when this guy got to shooting. So this is a problem that has to be fixed now. It should have been fixed many years ago. And I see that it still is a problem and it hasn't been fixed. And now it needs to be fixed now. That's very, very dangerous.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Plank.
Yes, thank you. So this is something that I would like to say that we've been working on as a board for quite some time. 4 years ago, shortly after coming on the board, we dusted off the 10-year study, and over the past 4 years, we've brought it down to a 5-year plan and worked very hard at chipping away at what needs to be done. And clearly, safety and security has led that charge. Prior to Parkland, prior to Valentine's Day of this year, this is work that we've worked tirelessly on. This summer, as it relates to some of the safety elements, my fellow incumbents have articulated that very well. We did do a full-scale exercise with Jackson Creek Elementary over the summer, which we had the different agencies coming together. Only a few people knew what was happening as it relates to that, so it was to try to be as live as possible. That was interesting, and we debriefed that after that, and we're able to look at what would this look like if it really occurred. So those are the type of things that we're working on a major scale. We're also going all the way down to the simple things of locking doors and making sure that we just understand the simplicity of keeping things secure. Mental illness, I mean, that's challenging. It continues to be something that has a stigma attached to it, and the reality is we must normalize some of that mental illness, and we have wonderful wraparound services here at the district. And finally, if the bond were not to pass, we'd be looking at our 8% bond issuance would put a real challenge on that. We would be significantly facing a deficit as it relates to maintenance needs in our district. Thank you.
I can't wait to say this, Mr. President.
Okay, so mental health is a real issue, and I think it gets marginalized a lot of times because we easily, or sometimes we want to give it to anyone who has a behavioral problem, and so I think we need to make sure that it is an actual problem. This person has a mental concern before we decide. It could just be a child acting out or something of that nature. I think we need to be concerned about that. Now, with respect to security, I think security is a major issue. It should have been a major issue a long time ago. It should be a major issue every year, not every election, but just every year. And that being the case, if the bond does not pass, then the security should not be hurt. Safety is as one person just said, safety is the building. That's a maintenance issue, and we can deal with that during that issue. But the security of the children going to the actual school is major, and it should be held at great lengths. I'm not one that believes it's not if it or when it will. It can't. We have to make sure that it cannot. And we have to make sure that schools are safe so that our children can go there without any problems. And so whatever it takes for us to, even if it's, we have to get money from other parts of the budget, we have to make sure that the kids are safe.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to take an audience question this time, and this time we'll start with Dr. Holmes, work our way around in all fairness. And this is coming from the audience. Do you believe students of color in the Richland School District 2 are disproportionately suspended? If yes, why? If no, is your answer based on your careful review of the data?
Okay. I am not aware of the data for suspensions within Richland District 2, but I know on a national level, there is a disproportionate amount of minority students who receive a disproportionate amount of suspensions. When I get on the board, I would have to look at that information, but I do know that nationally that has been a problem. I think that we have to be assured that we're making sure that we're treating all children fairly, and I think it goes back to cultural competency. Cultural competency, the same behavior can look very different through your eyes if you're not aware of someone's culture. And I think what happens a lot of times is that some kids are being accused of things that may not necessarily be what they are, and we need to work and adjust and monitor to make sure that all children are treated fairly. As I said, I am not currently on the board, but if I'm on the board, I'll have that specific data, and that's definitely something that I would look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manning.
As a current board member, we absolutely look at the data for students, and it is a priority to make sure that all students are treated fairly in our schools. We've taken a tremendous number of steps to help ensure that not only our students, but staff and others are looked at in an equitable manner. We've hired a diversity and multi-inclusion officer who reports straight to the superintendent and is at all of our board meetings, has a lot of interaction with us to ensure that our policies, the way we conduct business in the district, and that the actions taken are equitable. And so we've made a lot of progress with that. We also, since I've been on the board, we've implemented restorative justice so that we look at not only on the other end of what happens after discipline, but how do we prevent the discipline, and how do we make sure that we are fair and equitable and students having opportunities to express whatever issues they may be dealing with in a way that, that does not harm either themselves or other students and maintains integrity of the learning environment. So it is absolutely something that we spend a lot of time on. We continue to spend a lot of time on discipline and equity in our district. And I will say to you as a board member that it will continue to be a priority and something that I'll spend a lot of time continuing to look at the data and ensuring that we're equitable for all students in our district.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you for the question. When I ran for the board 4 years ago, the thing that I iterated most was equity and parity. Not just equity and parity of resources, equity and parity of practices. Discipline falls under that purview. There's an adage that teachers use: you teach the child, not the subject. When you teach the child, you will have taught the subject. One of the things that we do is focus on individual instances. We study data with regard to discipline. When I got on the board, there was an implementation of studying discipline data, studying discipline record, and making sure that practices were consistent from schools to schools, that infractions were consistent. At the end of the day, you want to educate all students. You also want to keep all students safe. So making sure that the practices and the expulsions and things that we saw were consistent with the different schools and not just individually dispensed. So one of the things that we constantly study when we have appeals and things of that nature, and things that we do in executive session that can't be discussed publicly, is making sure that we're keeping all students safe while also making sure that students aren't admonished harshly. One of the things that we think about is student services. One of the things that we do is for some infractions, now you have student services instead of arbitrary discipline. And so those numbers are things that are constantly fluctuating. We have quarterly reports that are given to us now so that we'll always have a spotlight on those numbers, and there's no inequity with regard to those numbers. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Mobley. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Mobley or Mobley?
It matters what your mama
It
named
don't
you.
matter. Mobile or mileage, just whatever it is. I'm gonna go ahead on and agree with what the rest of these people been saying, because I don't really know what's happening in the district. I've been told that a lot of black kids been kicked out of the schools, and it's been said that they ain't being treated equally. I don't know nothing about the zero tolerance policy. I heard they got that. I really can't speak honestly on that part because I don't know. But I do know that a lot of black kids are being what they call expelled from school, because I run across a lot of them that tell me they've been expelled. And I just don't know really how the district is putting people out and how they discipline. I don't know that part. I'd have to be on the board to know about all that before I could be able to speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Plank?
Thank you very much. We're really proud of our district. We're proud of the work we've done in discipline. You've heard a couple of the incumbents talk about that. We're really proud of our superintendents here this evening, Dr. Baron Davis, for the work he's done coming on into our district. We work hard at making sure that there is consistent application through the discipline process. There's been the development of a discipline matrix. While I served as chair, we had a governance committee of which the members of that committee worked on how do we identify these trends, what do we need to do to make the discipline process fair to all, but also at the same time making sure that we're keeping the classroom safe, teachers safe, other students safe. I mean, these are things that you're faced with anytime you look at this. And looking at the data for disproportionate classes of people is something that we will continue to look at to make sure that is handled fairly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. President?
There's a few questions that's probably going to be asked tonight that the incumbents are going to be able to answer a lot better than those of us who aren't on the board, because we don't have the information that they have. However, if it is a major concern or is it a concern period, I think it's something that we should look at. How many people are being expelled from schools is a concern of mine. It should be a concern of all of ours. I sat in a board meeting not too long ago, and I watched the board expel multiple children. Now, how many of those people were black? How many were white? I have no idea. What were the issues why they were expelled? I don't know either, because they mentioned that was in executive session, and they could not tell us what the reason was. At the end of the day, there was kids that were being put out of school, and I don't know why. I think I would love to look at that data, but the only way for me to do that is to be on the board. So if you elect me, I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Caution Parker?
Okay. Thank you. Having been in the district for so long, I have seen a shift from when I first started in Richland School District 2 in 1980 to this time right now. Discipline is an issue and has always been an issue in terms of how we administer certain punishments. If you ask any principal in this room, I guarantee you they will tell you, I'm talking about middle school and high school, they will tell you that some of the students that have been expelled are a danger. They're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to others. Our responsibility is to keep our schools safe. And if it's not safe with those students there, then so be it. The other thing, that there are a lot of cultural issues that have been addressed lately that have not been addressed in the past. Thank you, Dr. Helen Grant. Regarding how people and how they believe in things. And I can remember my parents never raised us to say sir, ma'am. And when I was a principal, I had students sent to me left and right because they didn't say sir, ma'am to a teacher. So you have to look at all the cultural differences and work on that as well. The programs that we have in place in our schools are there to help kids. Kids don't just pop up and get sent to the school board to be kicked out of school. That doesn't happen. There is a process that they all go through. And our job is to make sure the process is fair and in place, and there's a lot of equity regarding that. But our discipline is something that is always under constant study and review. What's working, we're trying to make sure that our schools are consistent with dealing out the discipline among our among our students, And it's just when it's a safety issue, you cannot have that. You can't have it in your home, and you can't have it in school.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Manning. The next questions, a group of questions, are regarding teacher retention. How are you going to hold principals accountable for student and teacher success at our schools, such as student performance, teacher retention rates, and creating a positive cultural environment? South Carolina, as we know, is currently experiencing a teacher shortage. How do you propose retaining quality teachers and recruiting future quality teachers? How can teachers be compensated as professionals when compared to professionals with similar qualifications in other professions in terms of equal pay, employer-paid portion of benefits, pay for higher learning and professional development?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start out with what I believe is at the core of our teacher issue. Having been a former teacher, it's simple. We have to respect our teachers. When we get respect in the classroom for our teachers and respect back in our community, we spent over 20 years in the media. Every day you look, we denigrate teachers. We talk bad about them. Our parents talk bad about them in the home. They come in and tell their students, you don't have to listen to that teacher tell you what to do. And when we bring respect back, then our legislators, I see a future legislator out there in the crowd who will have an impact. We need to respect them. We do need to treat them as professionals. We're one of the few school districts that still pay additional money for national board certification. One of the reasons we do that is it's a way to help pay y'all who are in the classroom extra money for the level of professionalism that you bring to us every day. We do it to help recruit and retain our teachers. We go nationwide looking for the best quality staff that we can bring to our district. And we also try to work with our higher ed to help make sure that they're properly trained. We also have a lot of training programs in our district. We want to make sure that everybody is trained, has colleagues that are experienced to help get them. Y'all have heard about that 5-year hunt, right? We lose them in the first 5 years. I'm a perfect example of that, having left within the first 5 years of my educating career. So we've got to bring back respect. We as a board, since I've been on this board, we've given a pay increase to our teachers and our staff every single year. As a state employee, that has not happened. So we will continue to do what we can on the board for our teachers. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Mack.
Some of the things that I made sure that I jotted notes about before I came here because they're important to me was on teacher pay. So I'll say the things that I had written down just so I don't forget and then talk off the cuff. My role as a board member is to set policy. That is my lane. It's to educate myself as to the issues and poise myself in a position to ascertain the pitfalls leading to our teacher shortage. Most of the concerns surrounding teacher recruitment has to do with predetermined limits of teacher pay. That's beyond the scope of some of our district level authority, and accordingly we must be passionate, ardent, and fervent to attract quality teachers. Off script, Richland 2 works hard to compensate teachers well. Richland 2 pays out of its pocket for national board certified teachers. There is an incentive there. Richland 2 pays that. It's not a state, something that flows through the state, but we pay that out of pocket to make sure that we try to compensate our teachers well, to the point where so many teachers flock to District 2 because District 2 pay is better. With regard to equal teacher pay, it is not. Nationally speaking, teachers are not valued with regard to pay. When you ask, you can talk wonderfully about how a teacher touches everyone's career and everyone was made through a teacher, doctors, lawyers, accountants, everyone who has a career was formed by a teacher, but your value is where your pocketbook is. And nationally speaking, our value does not show teachers' worth. So although we work hard to have a competitive pay for our teachers in District 2, nationally and globally speaking, nationally speaking, it is simply not there. And that's something that we always want to work for and advocate for at a state level as well. I'm done.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mobley.
Okay, the school board should assure that the Human Resource Department use any data available to analyze why teachers leave the district. We need to not only focus on hiring good teachers, but also retaining the good ones we already have. We have to have a system where parent involvement and support is a part of the child's performance that also connects the teachers working with their students. Now, the bottom line is the teachers ain't gonna get no money, so we done been up here 30 years trying to get the teachers some money. The money gonna come from the top. You got to go to the State House and get your money. You got to put representatives in the State House. You got to put people in there that's gonna pass bills for you and get you paid. You ain't gonna get nothing done at the State House going up there like these people did in Colorado. They took all the students went with them. Do you think the students gonna follow District 2 up to the State House? I think not. If you get them students to go up to the State House with you, you go up there, you put some new, just like this just had corruption in the State House. Everybody's stealing in the State House, corruption in the State House. Nobody went to jail. What kind of junk is that? If I shoplift, I'm going to jail tomorrow if I shoplift. So if you want to get paid, go to get you some legislators in the State House and get you some money to pay them teachers. You can't get paid here in the board. Board not going to pay you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Plank.
Yeah, so I look at it as a three-tiered approach. We've got financial support needs, we've got leadership support, and then what I call public vocational support. And I'll start there. Public vocational support, Mr. Manning referenced it earlier, where there is just this a trend to discourage those to enter this profession when it's such a noble profession. I said earlier, my mom was a lifelong educator. I remember the mounds of paper. I remember coming home and just not paying that much attention. And it's taken 4 years on this school board to really appreciate. I mean, I thought I appreciated educators. When you do this, you start to understand. From a financial support, clearly we need to look at teacher pay. I think that one start would be raising the base student cost. Again, that's a General Assembly component where we look at fully funding education. By fully funding education, that could amount to $15 to $20 million additional into our operating fund that would allow us to then focus on looking at that and added incentives for teachers. I feel like a big part of it is leadership as well, the leadership support, where we want to make sure that we continue our succession planning, that we're giving teachers year 1, year 3, and beyond to be able to look into administration and know that they can move up in the same district. I think it's important that our teachers just be able to practice our craft. You know, I think other solutions include respecting teachers' professional judgment and building a robust teacher cadet program and reaching out to our colleges. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Yeah, I think that at the bottom line is just pay. You know, I spoke to a couple of teachers in the last couple of weeks, and we spoke about morale, and the teachers have talked about how their morale is low because not only are they not being paid, it's not being taken seriously as if it's a critical issue. It is a critical issue for teachers' pay. Now, in order to do that, all of us, me and all of my colleagues here, we've been campaigning for a couple of weeks now, a couple of months, and we were running all over the place. And we were asking people for money. We're going to different locations, and you know it's an interesting dynamic to run for office. But one of the things I realized is that after the election is over, we're not concerned about the issues, really the real issues any longer. And I think if we were to advocate like we were running for office for teachers' pay, if teachers had a real voice and a consistent voice, I think we could get there. The legislature will listen to us if we would be consistent on that issue. And I think we're not very consistent on that issue because it doesn't really translate into a good campaign for us. If I'm elected, I will be a voice for all teachers. And my goal is to really support you and show you that not only are we concerned about you, but I'm going to spend a lot of time legislating, talking to our elected officials about raising the teacher pay because we're losing too many teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Caution Parker.
Thank you. The board supports the vision and mission of the district, the entire district, and we have to be strong advocates for our teachers. There are a lot of issues involved in it. It's not just pay, but the respect. The respect starts at home, and that's where it has to come from the home. When it doesn't, then it's incumbent upon us to instill the respect for the profession of teachers. We do as much as we can in terms of maintaining class sizes for our teachers, recognizing successes, As already been mentioned, additional pay for board certification. We do a lot of things to help our teachers, but there's still more we can do. Number one, it's got to start with the legislators. And Ms. McLeod, I'm not putting you on but it has got to start there. In the 50 years I've been here in Columbia, South Carolina, coming from Germany, I have never seen where education has been at the top of the list, ever. We've had that one brief period with Governor Dick Riley when he came through the EIA. But other than that, it's always being picked and nicked at and money taken away for something else. Right now, I think we are, $5 million per year under budget. We have not received any funding for our students that we're supposed to have. That's been cut and taken away from us. So there are just a lot of things that go into this. I mean, it's not just teacher pay, but it's also the respect and the love that our teachers have for what they do. And one thing that I can say, that's something I truly missed when I moved into administration, being with students.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Jones-Holmes.
I'm going to take a different spin on this. It is the money. They'll say, well, you should do teaching because you love it. You don't get into teaching unless you love it, and you certainly don't stay into teaching unless you love it. I wouldn't have been in education for 33 years for the money. But I'm going to say this. I think there is something that the board can do about changing teacher salaries. There's no other profession that a salary cap stops at 22, 23, 24 years, and then you can't get a raise after that. You have to just get an increase for a cost of living increase. And what other profession do you have to take your own money to keep going back to school to get a different degree to make more money to pay back the loans that you got for trying to make more money? So having said that, there is something there's a salary scale. What job would you want to go on and stay on where the salary scale stops at 28 years and you know you're going to work past 28 years? You're going to work at least to your 60 or 62, or you're going to be poor with your Social Security. You can't live off of that. So I think I'm hearing that they're saying it's just the legislator. It's not just the legislative. We can work, some of the things in the budget should include a pay increase on the salary scale that is not capped off at a certain amount of years. That is not fair to teachers, and no other profession do you ask people to spend their own money. And so far as retention, what you could do retention is pay some of those student loans back for teachers. If you say you need teachers in the classroom, stop making us spend our own money to work in a school system that we do love, but we shouldn't have to be, we need to be compensated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next question, we will start with Ms. Mackey. And this question is an audience question, and we have several that were the same, so we combined some of them. Our nation is currently facing an opioid epidemic. Statistics show youth using experimentally, I can't read this writing, but that's okay, began using and experimenting with drugs at the age of 14. Do you support substance abuse prevention, and why?
Do I support substance abuse
prevention, and why? This is an audience question.
I've got it. It's part of social services. I talked earlier about removing the stigma of mental health, and that mental health is important as physical health, financial health, physical and every other kind of emotional health, and every other aspect of making a whole person. Opioid use, there are lots of factors that lead to that, and other issues that people have with drugs. That's part of social services. One of the things that we have available in the district is that we have services available for our students. We have partnerships with LRADAC that can offer services for students. So I guess the first layer of detection would be to notice, for teachers to be able to notice. And I'm thankful that we have an environment in the district where our teachers are able to communicate their concerns about students and share those with social services so that people can get the services that they need. And we wholeheartedly support any efforts that are available to support the whole health of students, be that drug and alcohol, substance abuse, mental, or any other kind of making them better as people that we have. So absolutely, I'm supportive. But not just opioid. I know there's because I have 30 seconds left, I'm going to talk a little bit more. Because there's a spotlight on opioid crisis in this nation, that's not the only crisis we have. There's other drug abuse. There are students who come to school hungry. There are students who only eat at school. There are students who are hungry, have so many other services. So yes, I am supportive, but I never want people to lose the spotlight of all of the other needs that our students have. It's not just the opioid crisis. It is important, but it's not the only need and the cry for help that our students have. It's not the only one.
Thank you. Mr. Mobley.
It's amazing for that question. You know, I'm gonna have to be me. I ain't been me all night. I ain't used to reading. I'm used to coming out of my head with what I think and what I feel. I did a little study, and everything, but let me just say this. People working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and some have third jobs. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed them, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Our main job is to provide them with a roof over their head, food on the table, and money in their pocket. This is politics as usual. People can't even pay the rent. They late on their rent as I speak. Listen, some child stomach is growling right now. Our children can't afford to live anywhere, nowhere. There's nowhere to go. And why? The rent is too high. The rent is too high. When families don't have money to take care of their children, they abandon them. The children abandon them themselves. The children go out there and they do what they want to do. They go get on drugs. They go and do whatever they do to make themselves happy. They do whatever they want to do to make their family happy. They do whatever they want to make their mama and daddy happy. And they have to go out and do what they have to do. If they get on drugs, then ain't nothing you can do about that. They have to bring themselves to clean up themselves. Sometimes you can't clean them up, but sometimes they have to do it themselves.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Plank.
So about 3-4 weeks ago, my daughter had a sore throat, wasn't feeling well. Went to the doctors, kind of the doctor's care type of clinic, and walked out with a prescription for a opioid-based cough syrup. 2 weeks before that, I had just a regular injury that I'm nursing with ibuprofen. So and she's a USC student, a freshman. I think that's a concern. It was a concern to me that the over-prescribing of some of our opioids is certainly an issue in the United States. Fortunately, I believe there's change happening in that related to more information getting out to the doctors. There's more technology that's going to place through pharmacies to be able to watch that and watch pharmacy shopping. But that's an issue when we have our freshmen in college being able to walk out with that type of prescription immediately. I think good stewardship of medicine is important as well. For those of you who may have those type of medications, the painkillers in your house, to make sure that they are locked up, because students are able to shop through other friends' houses and look in medicine cabinets. So I think that's important. I certainly support preventative measures within our system to be able to combat this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Yeah, I think it's a real issue as well. And it takes parental involvement to make sure that, that your child does not have access to certain things. Now, from the district perspective or from the school board perspective, I think we would have to be mindful of what it is or who has what, and come up with some idea of how do you monitor that. And I think that's going to be extremely difficult when you think about how do you monitor what a child has in terms of opioids. What do you do to make sure that they don't have access to that, and what responsibility does the district have to actually get that done? And I think that's a discussion that maybe need to be had, so that you can determine what the district's response should be. Now, it's a serious issue because there's a lot of people dying from this issue. I pastor a church, and I have some members who've had these issues as well. And so what helps us out in that arena is to talk about it, to share it with the kid, to be honest and be frank, and for the parents to really be honest about what they have in their homes.
Thank you. Ms. Caution Parker.
I believe a lot of this starts at home. I think making sure that you are parents that are observant and aware of issues and constantly talking to your children, I think that helps tremendously. However, I do know that things happen. The opioid abuse is just out of control. We've got a lot of programs that was mentioned earlier. We have a lot of programs in place and partnerships in place with mental health to help work with our young people. But this is the issue that gets me. What if it's the same thing over and over and over? And we have seen a lot of that. We have seen a lot of that, where somebody or a student will be on opioids or whatever, and then it's a constant thing, 2 and 3 times coming up for an expulsion hearing, and you've provided the help, you've provided everything that you can possibly provide as a district, and then it falls back on the parent. And I know I take a hard nose on this, but I really believe sometimes it helps to hit that brick wall and stop dead in your tracks and fall to the ground and get up and start all over again. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jones-Holmes.
I'm listening, and the opioid addiction is a big problem, but there's also been a big problem with other drugs that has been continuous for many years within the school district. We have not just kids that are opioid. I think because it's been on TV so much with opioid, we're focusing just on that. But we have children that are severely addicted to marijuana every day. We have children that are coming to school addicted to alcohol every day. So we can't just focus just on the opioid because that's the new highlight of the day. I think that what the solution here is that we have to, of course, incorporate the parents, because you cannot do anything without the cooperation of the parent. I think it goes back to earlier what I also said about housing those mental health counselors possibly on the campus, so you don't have to depend on some of the parents who themselves are addicted to these things to take these kids to the counselors. They're right there on the campus, so you don't have that particular issue, and so you can assure that they're getting the assistance that they're needing. Also, I think we have to equip our teachers, administrators, and all our cafeteria staff and everyone else to be able to recognize the sign of a student that is addicted to something and make those immediate referrals to those particular agencies that the district already has partnerships with. And if I'm on the board, I think that's a big thing. So I don't want to just highlight just the opioid thing, because that's the new buzzword today, and it is a big problem. I'm not diminishing it, but we've got other problems with alcohol, like I said, drug abuse that has been going on for years that has to diminish the capacity of our children to learn. So we need to focus on all aspects of that.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
Yes, thank you very much. As others have stated, certainly drug use in our schools is a community problem, a problem that's in our community as well, reflected in our schools. We have increased the use of the DARE program with the Richland County Sheriff's Department in our elementary schools to help with some prevention measures so that our students are more aware of the issues that lead to drug use. So we have increased that. We do have a partnership with the RADAC. Since I've been on the board, it used to be that if you got, we talk about zero tolerance with our discipline. It used to be that if you had marijuana, you were immediately put out of our schools. Today, if you have marijuana first-time single use, you're not distributing, and you don't have a history of other issues, we're going to put you in the RADAC to give you services and help you to recover instead of taking the disciplinary measure of kicking you out and trying to help you recover and double down on the issue. So we have made a lot of progress in that area. We've increased the number of social workers because we realize that problems at home, has been stated, sometimes leads to the issues that cause that drug use. So we have additional social workers that are in the schools to help our families so that the families can help our young folks with their issues. And I also want to talk about Dr. Grant in her area. We have our Project CARE Coalition, and I've attended several of their trainings. The last one we had Captain Brian Godfrey from the Sheriff's Department, who's with the Narcotics Division, come and talk to teachers and staff about what to look for with our students and their drug use, and then what to do about it when it's noticed. So we have increased those programs.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next question is regarding parent accountability, and I believe I'm starting with Mr. Plank. This time, Mr. Mobley. I'm sorry, Mr. Mobley this time. Thank you. How can schools hold parents and students more accountable for misbehavior and other negative actions that interfere with teaching and learning?
Say that again.
How can schools hold parents and students more accountable for misbehavior and other negative actions that interfere with teaching and learning.
I can hold them accountable, okay? First of all, you got to talk to the parents. When a child is having problems in school, the first person you want to talk to is their parent. You tell their parent what they're doing, how long they've been doing it, and what we can do to address the problem. And then you move it on from there. You address the problem and take it from there. That's it.
You done? Anything else? Okay. To add? All right, thank you. Mr. Plank?
Yeah, so this has been a conversation that we've had for as long as I've been around on the board. I know, it's really tough when it comes to, especially as a teacher, to look at parental responsibility. The challenge is you can't legislate morality, right? I mean, it's one of the things that we hope that the strength of the family will continue to grow, and that those type of behaviors are taught at home. How do you do that as an educator to hold them accountable? I think communication is key, and Mr. Mobley did reference that just now. I believe that that's a big component where conferences, but in getting in touch with the teachers, getting to know it. I know one of my fellow board members out here in the audience talks regularly about getting to know the child, about understanding who they're dealing with, and once you know that, you get to peel back the layers and understand where the student may be coming from. I was speaking to a teacher out in the parking lot about the very same thing, about just deflecting so many things, and the reality was just not looking foolish in front of other classmates. So, this is a challenging subject, and I think it'll be something that we'll have challenged forevermore. I think this is where we look at partnerships as well in our faith-based community to where some of the morality is helpful in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President?
I know it's got to be extremely difficult for teachers to deal with parents who do not take seriously their children's education and who will not come to parent-teacher meetings and that kind of thing. So how do you hold that parent accountable when you can't even reach them? That's pretty difficult. The only thing I could think of that you can possibly do is continue to try to reach them. We can build relationships with the children in the schools. That's important because most children don't. So a lot of times, a child won't feel valued. When my son was in school, in his middle school, he started acting up in school. So I decided I was going to go and sit in his class. And I sat in his class for a couple of days, and then he stopped acting up, and I've had no more problems with him. But every parent's not going to be me. And so every parent's not going to do that. So you just got to engage that child. It's difficult, but it's worth it.
Okay. Ms. Caution Parker?
One size does not fit all. There's not one specific measure that you can implement to address that situation. It's multifaceted. Of course, number one, and I believe in this firmly, building a relationship with the child. You can tell early, very early as an educator, if a child has issues or is going to have issues. They're always on the edge. And so I think it's very important to build a relationship with the child, with the parents as well. The problem is you might have about 4 or 5 issues in your classroom, and you just don't have the time as a classroom teacher. And as most of you know, we ask more and more and more of our teachers and more of our educators to implement programs and do things to help kids, and we take nothing off their plate, So as educators, building relationships, I think, is very important. Issues in the home. A lot of times kids will bring issues from home. You don't know about them. You probably will not know about them. But you can pretty much tell that there's something going on, and making sure that you have the right person at the school psychologist, guidance counselor involved in the whole process. Kids don't care about what you say and what you do until they know you care about them. So I say that's probably the first step.
Dr. Jones-Holmes?
You cannot regulate another person's home. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is work on the climate and the culture within your building. Cultural competency and also working on the everyday climate in your school is going to automatically cut down on those disciplines, because the school district should be somewhere, and the school should be where the kids feel like it's additional home. One thing that we do at the school that I'm currently at, which is a high school and a career center, we stand at the door every day and greet every child that comes in, because some of them never even get greeted with the kindness that they need. So you have to first create a climate that the kids feel safe in. And you'd be surprised. I can discipline you all day long, and I don't have a whole lot of problems with that, because I've created a relationship with these students. And they know, here's the other thing. You must start equipping these kids to realize you can't change your home situation, but you can change what you can do about where you're going to go yourself. And by doing that, that's where you have your counselors come in. That's where you have the cultural competency come in. That's where you have the relationship building come in. And see, when you do that, it may be terrible at home, but you have to always let them know home is just a temporary thing. But I'm going to equip you with the necessary things and equip you with your necessary ability to be able to move yourself out of your situation so you don't have to stay stuck. So no, you can't regulate a home, but what you can regulate is how students feel at school and how students are treated at school.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
As it's been stated, extremely difficult issue. I mean, let's face it, we have many, many grandparents raising young folks who may or may not be ready for the challenges of today's students. We have families who struggle to control some of their students in their own homes, much less what they do when they're outside of the homes. And we're always looking at our teachers. Well, teachers, we need to build relationships. Teachers, they want to do these things, but they are challenged and burdened with so many things in the schools. And I really do appreciate our Senator McLeod and others here in Richland County. They do support our schools, and they try to do what they can for our budget. But our legislators have got to realize we have got to inject money in our schools. We need those mental health counselors. We need more social workers. We need more support services. You ask many of our teachers, and they will tell you, if I could have something, the things they ask for is always the RTI specialists, the social workers, the guidance counselors, the support staff that can help them to do what they need to do in the classroom to be successful so that they can focus on teaching. And so at some point, we've got to inject those services. We do have family services that incorporates both the home as well as the students or the parents have to be involved, but often that's only after there's a problem. We can't mandate parents be involved before the problem arises when we like to prevent that. So there's a lot of work. Mr. Plank mentioned communication. Our teachers are working hard to communicate, but we just need additional funds so that we can provide those support services. That's critical.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
One of the things about going last is that everything's been said. But as the parent, as the child of a teacher, I grew up hearing lots and lots of euphemisms. One of the things my mom used to say is that parents send to us, to schools, to districts, the very best student they have. They send to you the very best they have. Our job as educators, as people who advocate for education, is to communicate with parents. That's a huge thing, to create an atmosphere where it's safe to communicate. It's safe to talk to parents and let them know. One of the things that used to be so disappointing to my mom in our home is when she tried to reach out to a parent and they didn't call back, or they didn't get back with her. And I used to offer a different perspective and say, Mom, maybe they can't. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're working 3 or 4 jobs, and so parents' level of engagement may not be being at an SIC meeting or a PTSL meeting, but their level of engagement may be just being able to drop that kid off to an after-school program, or if they've made the beta club or the band or the football team, getting them to those practices. So that may be the parents' level of engagement. So my recommendation and my passion is meeting people where they are and helping them advocate. At my kids' school, children's school, and for SIC, one of the things I used to enjoy is just talking to parents in a football meeting or in stands, or a football game or in stands, and talking to parents who were concerned about different things going on in the classroom. I said, well, have you emailed the teacher? Have you called? Have you gone to the school? And you'd be surprised how many parents just didn't know what to do. But once they were armed with information, they were able to advocate better for their kids and become better partners for their teachers. So just helping parents sometimes is a step in the right direction, because you can't do better if you don't know better.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, so that everybody can give a really good closing statement and we can stay on time, this is going to be, you're going to have to talk really fast. This is going to be a 30-second question. Okay? I know you can do it. We can do it, right?
I don't know.
I just want to get everybody on time. Okay. And we'll start with, I believe, y'all help me out, Mr. Plain.
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts regarding the time spent on standardized and excessive testing that takes away from classroom time?
Yeah, so, gosh, I could
30
spend
seconds.
a lot of time on that one. I think that we're going to see, there's naturally going to need to be testing. I think we want to focus on the quality of testing with the Transform SC. I think with the 21st century graduate, I think we want to focus on some of those soft skills in our classroom and study those outcomes as well, because we have a big focus on knowledge, but I think the other two tiers of that particular standard is something that we need to look at in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I think standardized testing has hurt us in some regards, because a lot of the students, and I'll just be specific, my daughter has an IEP, or had an IEP. And one of the issues that we weren't aware of it, but until almost at the end of her tenure in the school district, we were under the impression that she was going to graduate from the school. But because she could not perform on the standardized testing, she was put into a district certificate program. And as a parent, we weren't aware until her 10th grade that was done. That was one of those areas where the standardized testing, she could not perform in that regard.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And Ms. Cheryl Caution Parker, thank you.
I think we just gone overboard with all this testing. It's ridiculous. I do believe that testing is necessary. I do believe that we need to know where we stand locally here in the state of South Carolina and nationally. And we need to keep our eyes on the global aspect of teaching and learning. But I do think that we spend too much time on testing, and a lot of times testing involves it involves a lot of cognitive skills, but it does not involve what's going on in the home. It does not involve all aspects of a child's life, and I think that is what's detrimental. Thank you.
Time. Dr. Holmes, Jones Holmes.
I think we're absolutely over-tested. I think that teachers should be free to be able to give you that well-rounded education that many of us in this room had. That's how come you have students right now that can't write a check, can't tell time, and don't know how to write in cursive, because we are testing the heck out of our students. And it's not necessary. And as far as I can tell, we have very successful people sitting in this room right now who never had to take all of these standardized tests. So I think we definitely have to be able to get back to the basics of letting these teachers teach our kids how to be good citizens and how to be able to live in the real world.
Thank you. Mr. Manning.
I'm going to borrow a phrase from our students. It's just a hot mess. I mean, it's the state changes the testing on us all the time. We can't even tell you how well sometimes we do as a district because they change the test. They change the test, and then our teachers are having to relearn, what do I need to do to prepare my students this year that's different from the next year? And so it's very difficult on our teachers. I mean, we really do have to figure out, and you know what? College is now starting to decrease testing for entrance. They're looking at how active they are and other things, and the state of South Carolina is increasing the number of tests. So it's a hot mess, period.
Thank you. Ms. Mackey?
Yeah, echoing most of what everyone else has said, but in the interest of 30 seconds time, we talk about standardized testing and how much time it takes away from the teaching process, and it does. But my concern is not about the types of tests we have or how much testing that's done, but what type tests we have. Some of our tests are culturally biased, and making sure and trying to figure out what the heck you're testing for in the first place. What is it assessing? What exactly are you getting out of that? So my focus is on what type of tests we're having to make sure it's relevant to the student experience, and finally giving our teachers the latitude and the freedom they have in the classroom to be able to teach our students what they deem important.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mobley?
We all know that the State Department mandates certain standardized tests that are used to measure a district's status in academics. I think we as a district should look at the total student and their behavior in academics. Going back to data, we can identify the small successes as well as the deficiencies and address them directly at the school level.
Okay. All right. Each candidate now will have a 1-minute closing statement, and if they can include in this statement, if elected, what would they see as their first priority in Richland 2? And this will incorporate one of the good questions that we got. And this time we'll start with Mr. President.
Thank you. First, let me thank those of you who are responsible for this forum tonight. I appreciate this platform to be able to provide provide us with this opportunity to present ourselves and our ideas to the voters. Now, let me speak directly to the teachers in this room and to express my desire and my intention to be a true voice for you in the district, to represent your concerns, to listen to and learn what is important to you, and to work to find solutions to the issues that impact not only you but also the students. Let me also speak to the business community in this. It is also my intention to pay close attention and to the commercial burden of taxes in this area. We do know that Richland 2 is the largest tax base burden in the country of the United States. And to the religious community, I want to also say to you, I will not be a one-time visitor. I'm a part of that community and I will continue to be a part of that community. And if elected, the first concern for mine is the security of the school system. Thank you.
Mr. Plain.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight, the League of Women's Voters, the Teachers Forum. You know, the last 4 years I've listened to principals, teachers, parents, community members, and business partners. And as I look into the future of our district, the safety of our kids, the management of the district's growth, the evaluation of our programs, and the continued implementation of cutting-edge technology in the classroom, and at the same time juggling the federal and state mandates, it is critical we have board members who lead with strong common sense, are good stewards of the district's budget and fiscally responsible, have a clear vision, listen to and empower teachers and educators to do their jobs, and as I mentioned before, relentlessly pursue excellence in our students' education. A priority of mine would also be the security of our schools. And serving this premier district, I'll continue to pledge these 4 things. I will reject passivity. I'll accept responsibility. I'll lead courageously, and I'll continue to invest eternally in the lives of our students. And I've always said that the clearer the vision, the fewer the options, the easier the decision. I want to thank you for your decision on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mobley.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have not been radical tonight, and I have not been an angry black man. But one thing I'm going to tell you is Mr. Manning done been on this board for 8 years, y'all, 2 terms. And he coming back to ask y'all to re-elect him to another term with a bond referendum. Now, you tell me if I came to y'all and I had 2 terms on this board, and I asked y'all to give me a bond referendum, would y'all re-elect me? Would that make any sense at all? Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to give you a closing statement. But I had to get that in there. If I had to come back to y'all after 2 terms and ask you to re-elect me and with a bond referendum, I'd quit. I wouldn't even come back. I'd quit. If elected as a member of the Richland District 2 School Board, I would ask in-depth questions about policy and programs so that we as a district understand the value they will bring to the classroom. I will listen to and reflect the concerns of our district and work collaboratively with fellow board members to improve our schools. Although budget season gets tougher each year, I believe we can find creative solutions to address those challenges while maintaining the superior quality of education we have come to expect in our district.
Excuse me, sir. I hate to interrupt you, but I'm on a strict time. We got to move on, but thank you so much. Thank you. Ms. Mack.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. And for the people who are here in the room tonight, thank you for being here and paying attention to there are lots of things you could be doing right now. I'd be home on the sofa watching TV or getting ready for the next day, but you chose to be here, and bless you for taking the time to pay attention to the folks that you want to be impassioned for your kids. Bottom line, I could make a lot of promises, but I've been on the board for years. So by now, my work should be able to speak for themselves. If you log on to richland2.org/school board, our school board meetings are all there. And you can see the videos that we have for all of our school board meetings. Bottom line, I love babies. And when I say babies, that's anyone from 2 to 25. I love advocating. My mom was called to teach. It was a passion for her. I was called to advocacy. I grew up in a home where education was enforced. When I talked too much in school, my mom sent books and all to the teachers. And I want other students to have equity of resources, facilities, and I'm able to see the fruits of some of those labors. And I'm ready for the next 4 years. But I just absolutely love what I do. I love advocating for our children and teachers, and I want to continue doing it. And bless all of you in the room who care enough to do the same thing. Bless you.
Thank you. Ms. Manning.
Yes, thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here again and look for an opportunity to continue serving this community. I'm very proud of Richland, too, and our community and what we've built. I believe we do have a premier district. We have a premier superintendent, and I believe we have a premier board of which I've been very proud to serve with and look forward to continuing to serve with over the next 4 years. I appreciate the engagement from our community. We have a very engaged community. I think that's represented by each of you who's here this evening and those who will tune in online and other avenues to see this forum and to be part of our board meetings. And yes, I did support the referendum because I support the safety of our students. And if our students are not safe, then the rest of what I do doesn't matter. I would make that decision again every day, every time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jones-Holmes.
I want to, first of all, thank you all for having me here this evening. A lot of the questions were geared to as if you were already on the board. So some of the answers that I wasn't able to provide you correct answers about. But what I can tell you is that I am a firm, fair, consistent person. I will not flip-flop on you. I will not say one thing I'm going to do and do something else different. I will advocate for your children, because I've been in this for 33 years and I work in education still yet today. This is what I love. This is a passion for me. This isn't something that I'm just casually doing. Running for this board has been an eye-opening experience. I am definitely not a politician, but I'm certainly an educator. And I told you all I was going to say this again tonight, and I'm going to say it again. I'm new to politics, but I am not new to education. I am not new to education at all. I am an educator. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. It's what I do every single day. And having said that, my first priority would be compensation for the teachers, because without compensation for the teachers, you might as well expect retention to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cushion Parker.
Thank you to everyone here in the room. My priorities are to first ensure a safe and secure environment for all students and staff. Next would be making decisions in the best interest of all students, not special interest groups. Fiscal effectiveness and efficiency. I think that we need to really be very careful and look at and do an annual review of where we place our priorities in terms of funding for each of our schools. Succession planning at all levels. This is where we can address part of the teacher retention. We do have teacher cadet programs in the district, but they're not as popular as they used to be, and we need to really get back on that and start moving that in that direction. I want to continue to make a difference for the children, staff, and community of Richland School District 2. I feel I have a lot to offer with 38 years now, being 4 years on the board, 38 years experience, and I have a lot to offer to helping making decisions, which include all students in this district. The current Board of Trustees is a committed entity which works well together for the district for the most part. Thank you for this opportunity to answer questions, which I hope gives everyone a better focus of who I am as a mom, children, grandmother, and educator.
We're out of time.
A school board member.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, this was really monumental. Let's give our candidates a hand. There's seven candidates here. And this concludes our forum. But before we go, I'd like to thank Regina Dilley and the Richland School District 2, the Teachers Forum, for organizing, people with the microphones, my colleagues with the League of Women Voters, Janelle Rivers for believing in me, and Cynthia Flynn and Robin White and Jean White, to Janie White, and everybody for being here, and Laura Covington. Boy, I don't know if I could have done your job, but thank you so much. We appreciate it.